Hi, my name is Jim Pikarski, and I teach meditation and give Dharma talks at the Blue Lotus Meditation Center here in Venice, Florida. Today, I'd like to talk about the pull of our true nature. Um, as we go on in life, and in Buddhism they say many lives, what happens is that after a while, our true nature starts pulling on us. It starts pulling on us because it wants us to live a deeper life. Um, you could say that the world is divided into two worlds. One is the world of sensation and awareness, and this is not thought and generated by feelings or thoughts. It's just pure immediate experience. Because it's pure immediate experience, it is really not problematic. I mean, we go through things in life, but it's not problems that are self created. The other world is the world of thought and feeling. Thought and feeling is the realm of the ego. The thing about thought and feeling is that it is a relative world and really dependent upon what we're thinking. If our thinking is true, then that world tends to straighten out. And if our thinking is distorted, then that world tends to be distorted. Um, there's really no truth to be found in this world. Now, this world, thought can be a pointer to truth or it can describe the truth, but it can't contain the truth. Truth is contained in direct experience. So, one of the problems with the world of thought and feeling is that it can get very distorted. And when it's distorted, it's like a cloud. Um, Within this cloud is also the ego. And we get confused. And we no longer see the deeper world of our true nature. And when we're confused, what happens is that the ego, which is actually just a creation of thought, starts trying to solve our problems. How it tries to solve our problems is to um, desire one thing after another. Oh, if you do this, you will find satisfaction. The problem is we do this and we find satisfaction for a period of time and then we're dissatisfied again. And because we're dissatisfied again, then the ego has to throw something else up for us to chase. Um, so it constantly presents us with a goal, one after another. Because there is no lasting satisfaction in ego goals, we have to move to another. In this world of thought, this world of what the Buddhist calls samsara, or delusion, is extremely hypnotic. It's very difficult for us not to be involved in it. As a matter of fact, it's so hypnotic that we just tend to go with it until we get so tired of it. And basically, we get so tired of it because after a while we start waking up. We realize that there's no satisfaction in this world, that this world has just brought us one disappointment after another. This is also the world that everyone else is in. The bulk of humanity is involved in this world. And the bulk of humanity will tell us that we should be in this world and we should be striving for these ego goals. Um, so this is the world. The ego is the world of our social reality. It's the ego's working through all other people and saying we should do this and we shouldn't do that, etc. So we try to conform. In a lot of ways, we fear not conforming. Because if we don't conform to this world, we're really seemingly on our own. We fear not being part of the herd. And we fear not being part of the herd because when animals are separated from the pack, a lot of times they're the ones vulnerable to predators. So there's something deeply conditioned in us to want to be part of the herd. But we must learn to be able to follow our deeper nature. And at some point, this calls to us. And we can't really be satisfied with the world of the ego and chasing all these illusions anymore. So, one doorway to this world is through the world of sensation and awareness. Because sensation and awareness doesn't really, isn't mediated by thought. It isn't really distorted by thought. It just is. But it's also subtler. A lot of times we don't pay attention to this world because we're so involved with the drama of our thoughts and feelings. So when we are no longer enamored with the world of ego pursuit, and sometimes we get caught in the middle. We're not yet attuned to the subtle guidance of our true nature, and we can feel lost. We can feel lost, like we don't belong anymore, and we don't know where we're going. We're used to looking for happiness outwardly, and we're not used to finding happiness within. And in a lot of ways, I mean, there's more support nowadays, but in a lot of ways, people could feel very unsupported in this. Meditation helps with this, because when we meditate, what happens is that we begin to explore the internal world, and we find that there are some natural things in our internal world that give us satisfaction, just the peace and joy of our true nature. And we can experience this in meditation. So hopefully we can learn to pay attention to the small, still voice inside. We also realize that true happiness comes from changing our inner nature to be more loving and wise than it does from changing our outer situation. I mean, there are certain benefits to changing our outer situation that are practical, but to find true contentment, we need to change the inner. We really need to work on our psyche and to have that psyche align with our true nature. So as we tune in to our inner world, our true nature, we are guided to what truly fulfills us in the world. And this is always something to do with wisdom, love, peace, creativity. It's not really about money, fame, and success, all things of the ego. Money, fame, and success may be side effects. So you may be really interested in a certain problem in medicine, and because you're so interested in it, you become very successful. And the fame and money and success that you get is a byproduct. But it's a byproduct of this deeper pull to find a solution to a medical problem that may benefit all people. So this is really ideal when we can find what our heart desires. Usually some kind of service to mankind, not serving the ego. It's not serving the selfish, separated self. This transition can take many lives, and typically it's not smooth. From being fully ego-oriented to consistently oriented to spiritual growth, really it takes a lot of examination and contemplation. We really need to be consistent in our dedication to this inner truth. But consistent, not total. We still enjoy the world. We still enjoy things, that are ego-oriented, or success, fame, money. All those things are enjoyable. But changing this to be a much more consistent adherence to this pull of our true nature is really what sets us free and gives us contentment in life. Sometimes people understand the futility of these ego-oriented goals. They don't really haven't found anything else for themselves, so they just drop out. They just make enough to survive, or even they may become homeless. Other people remain fearful to break away from what family or society says they should do. So they keep trying. They keep trying to be happy through these pursuits. However, they can feel like they're just forcing themselves. They're really moving by shoulds rather than their heart's desire. Another problem can be that sometimes people are off and on. Sometimes people will be very dedicated to ego goals and then get tired of that and dedicate themselves to spiritual goals and then get tired of that, and because their ego's involved with that, and then rededicate themselves to material goals. this is very common. Um, the thing is that the thing that truly wakes us up is that we begin to understand that suffering results when we're just involved in our ego goals. Ego goals do not give lasting happiness. Sooner or later, they change form. And when they change form, they either leave us high and dry, or they actually turn into suffering. Um, and we begin to realize over time that peace and joy and love is the result of following our true nature. Interestingly, in a way, it's much easier to make this transition now than it has been in the past. There are many great teachings. There are people who are, teaching on the internet, books. There are a lot of people talking about this stuff in one way or another. All these people are, pointing to the truth, some more clearly than others, but everybody's trying to point to a basic understanding. In the past, this was allowed, but it was almost like you had to become a nun or a monk. The reason you had to become a nun or a monk because it was just so difficult to make a living that if you weren't a nun or monk, you really didn't have any time to devote to these things. Um, It's also challenging to distinguish that still, small voice inside. It's very subtle compared to the much louder voice of the shoulds. The shoulds are highly emotional, dramatic, and sometimes they're expressed to us directly. What are you wasting your time meditating for? What are you wasting your time praying for? What are you wasting your time on that for? So a lot of people just don't understand our path, and they put pressure on us to kind of get on their path. I mean, everybody thinks they're right. Um, so one thing I live here in Florida is that this becomes extremely important in old age and retirement. Your ego goals are no longer available to you. You're retired, so all the goals associated with your profession are gone. Your sexual desire has diminished tremendously, so that those goals are gone. You may lose your spouse. You may lose people that are close to you. So you really need something that's inner because you're going to lose all the outer. And if you don't have something inner, what happens is that, and I see this here, is a lot of people, they become kind of crusts. In a sense, they're good people and everything, but they have nothing that is, no inner work to involve themselves with, no working on their own transformation. Because the thing about that is that it's always there for us. This working on and contemplating our true nature and really understanding and deepening our understanding is endless. And it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying because when you have a deep insight, that insight sticks with you. If it's deep enough, it'll stick with you. And because it sticks with you, it affects your whole life from then on. So it's not like an ego goal where you get some money and then lose it and then you're lost. It's like something you have that it's kind of like it'll always be in the bank for you, these insights. It'll always be there because it's part and parcel of your wisdom now. So I see some people who try to keep their ego-oriented views going by being part of the best country club or having the fanciest house or some other way of trying to. The ego desperately wants to distinguish itself, but the problem is that these people are going to die and they're going to lose everything, and that is coming closer. So they're going to really be up against it at some point. Um, Sometimes you see, people who can get involved in very ego-oriented activities and still be able to transcend these things because they come from a place of their deeper nature. Example is people like Gandhi or Martin Luther King. They still could come from a point of love and care, even and wisdom, even though they're involved in political movements. These people are very rare. Politics tends to bring out the ego like hardly anything else. So the world of sensation and awareness is the door to our deeper nature. And if you really quiet your mind and still your mind through meditation or otherwise, um, you can get in touch with this still small voice inside and get the guidance that it gives. The problem is that the ego can see this as all quite boring because the ego demands drama. It demands, uh, you know, um, dramatic emotions too. So, getting on a consistent spiritual path, it creates much quicker growth, much less suffering. Suffering still occurs, but we learn from it much quicker. We're in a position to learn from it rather than just suffer it. Because when we're not on the spiritual path, our suffering kind of works like erosion. Erosion can take forever to change an environment. However, if you consciously try to do it with clear intention, you can make things happen much, much more quickly. So we really want to get on a full path of effective teachings, meditation, service to others, um, all kinds of different practices, inquiry, all that. So I think it's important to understand this pull of your true nature, because if you're caught in between, it's just important to understand what's happening, because if you're caught in between, um, it's beneficial to understand and to accept what's going on so that you can move with the pull of your true nature. That will make everything much easier for you. And when you move along with your true nature, what happens is that a certain guidance occurs. Your true nature will lead you to things that really fulfill you. So, so developing a consistent spiritual path is very helpful.